In this video, we will look at the second type of calculation, specifically logical calculations. Logical calculations are useful if we want to partition or segment our data based on a Boolean field of yes or no. For example, if we're interested in looking at if our profits are above a certain threshold and then make that into a certain color, and if they're below that threshold, then profits come in as a different color. So to see how calculated fields work and how they can be useful, let's start by bringing in profits to the view. We will do profits as columns, and we'll then just start partitioning or drilling down by first markets, and then after markets we'll drill down by category. So what we have is just our sum of profits across different markets and different broad categories. And suppose we want to now have attention drawn specifically to areas that meet a certain target. So let's say that our target is at $150,000 or $140,000, and we want to color all categories where our profits exceed $140,000. So we can do that by creating a calculated field. To create a calculated field, either we can right click on this and then click on create calculated field, or we can just go to analysis button, and then here we click on create a calculated field. Then let's name it high profits, and we will use an if then command to create that field. So if we type in if here, we can see the syntax of an if command. If command would require what we will test, and if that condition is true, then do what, and if that condition is true, do something else. And then as we can see, we can kind of nest and have multiple if and else if statements, and then all of these will end with the end statement or end command. So let's start by typing in if, and now in Tableau, calculations should be done at the aggregate level. The advantage of that is that when we drill down, then the calculations will get drilled down as well. So we will operate on the default aggregation in Tableau, which is sum. So we will say sum, and we want to look at sum of profits. So now we can move profits in here. As we move a field into the view, it will come in as an orange, and typically the aggregation will come in as blue. And let's say that if sum profit exceeds $140,000, then we say label this as high profit. Else, we'll say label as low profits. And then we'll end this command with the end expression. So now this is a valid calculation. As we can see here, we have if sum of profit exceeds $140,000, then just label it as high profits, and otherwise label it as low profit. And if we click on OK, now once we have this field set up, it will appear as a measure, and we can bring this to color, and we will see that if our profits exceed $140,000, then we have blue. Now let's say that we wanted that as an orange color, so we could just move this here and the colors get swapped. So the high profits now show as an orange bar, and the rest of the profits which did not meet our threshold appeared as blue. Now this is good if our objective is only to have a fixed or static reference point. What if we want our user to decide at what level do they want to have this cutoff demarcated? So in that case, we can make use of something that's called a parameter in Tableau. Parameters are expressions that help us control how fields get viewed or displayed. So let's start by a reference line. Let's say we want to have a reference line at 140, and then we'll also create something that will highlight or change the color of our bars beyond 140. So we go to Analytics page, and we bring in a reference line. We apply the reference line to the entire table. The default for reference line is the average of the entire table. But what we want is value at $140,000. So we can click here, and so value, say create a new parameter. We'll call this parameter profit threshold or cutoff. And let's say that we want the value of this to be 140,000. And we click OK. So now we have this parameter here. And if you notice, by itself it's not doing much except just creating a line at $140,000. And now if we change this to 150, we will see that this line will move. If we change this to 120, this line kind of moves in. Now, what if we want the user to decide what profit cutoff they want to have, and then based on this cutoff or based on this line, values which exceed or cross this will become orange, and values which don't will stay blue. So here, as we see, even though our furnitures in Asia Pacific markets crossed our threshold, they still remain blue. That's because the calculated field that we're doing is a static field. It's not really doing anything with the parameter. But we can quickly fix that. If we go back to where we created this calculated field, and we right click and say edit this calculated field. Now, instead of giving a static value, let's bring in our parameter. So this, we've named this parameter profit cutoff. We could just bring this to the view. And we click on apply and click OK. So the moment we do this, anytime our sales exceed the threshold that we decide, the bars will switch to orange color. So if we move to 150, then we see that only cases where our profit is more than 150 will the bars turn orange. So this, using parameters and calculations, adds just a whole new level of granularity to our data, where we can now let the users decide at what level do they want to have the cutoff and then switch the visualizations accordingly.